Garry's Mod. We've all made our memories on this silly little sandbox game. Whether it's you and your friends nuking GM Flatgrass, you totally not RDMing on any given Dark RP server, or simply you just enjoying the game by yourself on GM Construct. It might not be much today, but some of the best memories from our past were made on this map. It could have been you building a base inside the bunker, or you wiring up a machine outside at the grassy field. Or if you're the type who loves to make content for YouTube, you likely made machinimas on this map as well. Even when you're alone, GMod will always find a way to make your experience a memorable one. But then again, are you alone? You clearly start the game in single player, but are you really alone? Have you ever noticed how despite starting the game in single player, you get the feeling that you are being followed? Maybe you could have sworn you saw a shadowy figure lurking near the dark room, maybe even caught it on video. Is your game haunted? No, that's silly. Clearly, you're just imagining other players being here. And besides, if you ever feel alone, you could always spawn in and pose the many different ragdolls this game has to offer. Heavy TF2 guy is a big funny Russian man. He'll clearly lighten up the mood. But what if those same ragdolls are sentient, alive, and in constant pain? Now you're making these ragdolls suffer, you monster. Okay, I'm clearly joking. The game isn't haunted or anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of you had those same thoughts. Whether it's the result of a glitch, some broken add-on, or a YouTube video, it's easy to see how people, especially kids, would imagine that there is something more going on with this game. Well, what if we stepped into an alternate reality where there was something going on with this game? That the game really was haunted with dark figures and sentient ragdolls. I introduce you to GMod ARGs. Although ARG isn't really the right term for them, it's more like GMod unfictions, but that won't give me any clicks, so we're just gonna call them GMod ARGs. Imagine a reality where your childhood fears were actually real, and you caught it all on video. That's essentially what GMod ARGs are, and man, there's a lot of them, almost to the point where people are starting to get kind of annoyed with them. The only thing that will rival the amount of GMod ARG channels there are is the amount of videos making fun of those very same channels. Like, guys, we get it. It doesn't help that many of these ARG channels are very similar to each other, which many have rightfully pointed out. Anything that is popular will inspire knockoffs, and that is no different for GMod ARGs. I, myself, don't really care about that discussion. What I really want to know is, are these ARGs actually scary, and which one is the best? For the first question, yes, under the right conditions, they can be absolutely terrifying. For the second question though, that's a bit hard to answer. Since there are so many channels out there, it's kind of hard to categorize which ones are actually good and which ones are not. Luckily, we have Old Reliable on our side. The tier list. Hey, look, I'm trying to be more original by doing this in-game. See, look, I even got all the ARGs here in this bin. Isn't that neat? Anyways, if you somehow don't know how a tier list works, S tier is of course top tier. Any channel that lands here are usually what I recommend to anyone who is new to GMod ARGs. The best of the best, basically. A tier is for channels that are really good but not flawless. They have some problems, but they usually don't ruin it for me. B tier is like the middle of the line for me. The series is not bad, but it doesn't do anything special. And C tier is the first tier where I would consider a channel bad. There are some enjoyable moments, but it's usually bogged down by the other stuff. And finally, D tier. Well, you tried. This should go without saying, but if any of these channels land in these two tiers, Do not go out and harass them. Literally, you're an asshole if you do that. And likewise, if any of the creators are watching this video and see your ARGs in these tiers, do not be discouraged. Keep creating content for this platform, and sooner or later, you'll have a series that is worthy for this tier right here. I believe in you. Before we get started on this list though, let me be clear. I will only be looking at ARGs for Garry's mod. No Half-Life 2, no Team Fortress 2, any other Source Engine game that isn't Gmod will be skipped. So, as much as I want to talk about Interloper, by these rules, I unfortunately can't include it in this list. Yes, I know a couple of episodes have Gmod gameplay, but that series is more so focused on the Source Engine as a whole. So, yeah. If you ask me though, Interloper is easily top tier. Oh, and if you haven't seen some of these channels in this list and care about spoilers, don't worry, this video is relatively spoiler free. And if you wanted me to recap every single ARG in this video, then tough luck, just go watch them. I will be giving my general thoughts on the stories, but I don't want to spoil any surprises by recapping every single moment. Also, most of these ARGs are not even finished, so it would be kind of pointless. And one last thing, anything that I say about these ARGs are my own personal opinions. Obviously, form your own opinions when you watch these channels, don't just blindly agree with whatever I say. And if you disagree with where a certain ARG is ranked, go ahead and comment with your own take. Anyways, with that preamble out of the way, let us get into the list, beginning with the ARG that kind of started it all. Classic GM videos in the Gmod ARG space is a classic. Thank you, I'll be here all night. In all seriousness though, Classic GM videos is probably one of my favorite Gmod ARGs, which is kind of ironic since this was the channel that established all of the typical Gmod ARG cliches. Spooky dark figure, low quality recordings, being scared of the dark room, all of it is here. If you're someone who is sick of these cliches, then this channel probably isn't for you, but since it was made before the Gmod ARG craze, I'm more than willing to give it a pass. Especially since, in my opinion, classic GM videos back then made it work. Missed Recording 2 never fails in making me feel uncomfortable. As for the story, I think it's top-notch, but not beginner-friendly. There are a lot of plot points set up very early in the series that pretty much don't go explained until much later on. There's also multiple protagonists, not just one, so there are some points in this series where it becomes kind of confusing on who we're supposed to be following. There's also a bunch of videos in this series that some might consider filler, which might annoy some people, but personally, I don't mind it. And let's be honest, a Gmod YouTube channel from 2006 would be putting out videos like this, just saying. However, there is one problem that I have with this story, and it's not really a major one, but it's noticeable when you compare it to the rest of this series. Rewatching the first few videos on this channel, it becomes increasingly clear that the creator did not have a clear idea on a proper story. Like, the first few videos only consist of, ooh, look at this spooky dark figure in the distance, isn't that scary? There was no clear consensus on what the overarching plot should be, and it was only until Pond Abyss did I feel the story finally make some sort of progress. But not just any progress, the story from this point forwards would take a sudden hard left turn. Gone were the days of a spooky dark figure, and in comes something else. I can't spoil it, that's for you to figure out on your own. But you can tell this was not the initial intention for this channel, and future videos would try to explain away the sudden appearances of the dark figure, sort of retrofitting it within the current story. I mean, it doesn't explain every appearance, but it does for the most notable examples. Besides that though, I think the story is very solid. Again, it's not beginner friendly, and most of the time, you're gonna be questioning what the hell is even going on. If you're willing to look past that though, then you have a GMod ARG that is just so good. Classic GM Videos is the series that kicked everything off, and for good reason. Yeah, it has many moments that are considered cliche now, but is that really bad if you're the first one? Well, one of the first, but we'll get to that. It's surprising that this series has evolved so much, yet remained consistently amazing. For that reason, it's going to S tier. GMod 9 fan Reuploads is sort of a precursor to classic GM videos, and it's like classic GM videos if the series was not good. Don't get me wrong, there are some creepy moments, but these creepy moments are more in your face. Almost every video features some sort of appearance of the Cheeple model haunting this player's game, and to me, that kind of takes away from the surprise if you expect to see him every single time. Another problem with this channel is that there's barely a story here. All we get is the Cheeple and the player getting scared of the Cheeple. We do get a origin story for why this Cheeple is haunting this player, and okay, I don't care if this is a spoiler, this part is hilarious. Apparently, the reason the Cheeple is haunting this player is because the player crucified him to the cross like Jesus Christ, which made him so angry that he lit himself on fire. What? I've heard some people say that this story is connected to classic GM videos, judging by the last video on the channel, which I could definitely see, but how is classic GM videos supposed to explain away this moment right here? All in all, I find GMod 9 fan Reuploads to be more funny than scary. At least I'm not bored when I'm watching this channel, so it has that going for it. Still though, it's kind of hard for me to recommend this channel for any viewer new to these GMod ARGs. GMod 9 fan may have been the first, but that doesn't automatically make it good. GMod 9 fan is sort of weird to me. Like, yeah, this could be considered the first ever GMod ARG, but like, there is some fun to be have, but like, it's just not good. So, I'm sorry GMod 9 fan enjoyers, but I'm gonna have to put this in C tier.
And another thing, you're ugly.
Gunslinger Pro 2009 is the first channel that does the whole "the ragdolls are alive" trope that we see in other GMod ARGs, and I think it does it the best. While other channels with this trope show the ragdolls moving around constantly, making it clear that they're alive, Gunslinger Pro goes for a more subtle approach. On any given video, the ragdolls will either move their head or their expressions will change, and these instances are so brief that it will be easy to miss them. Hell, the tutorial videos are for the most part so normal that I can see some people legitimately think that they're actually tutorials. Yeah, there are moments where you can clearly see a ragdoll stand up and move around on its own, but these moments are few and far between. Another thing I like about this series is that the antagonist, the player, isn't really evil. They come off more as like a spoiled child who easily gets annoyed over ragdolls not cooperating with them, which, hey, we've all been there. I won't say they're not intentionally hurting the ragdolls, but it's more like they're completely unaware over how they're feeling. I will say though that this series doesn't really have a protagonist that we're supposed to cheer for. The closest I can think of is the Blue Spy, but so far in this series, he has been completely missing in action. It does kind of make me wonder when he'll return, but if he is supposed to be gone for good, then like, why did the creator put so much focus on him early on? Either way though, I think Gunslinger Pro 2009 is near perfection. I'm definitely biased because Gunslinger Pro is like my #1 favorite GMod ARG. I understand it's not perfect, but like, come on. This is what kicked off all the moving ragdoll ARGs. So I'm putting this in S tier.
You're like a car crash in slow motion. It's like I'm watching you fly through a windshield.
Bad Water Videos 2009 seems to be a fan favorite for many people, and it's easy to see why. Compared to Gunslinger Pro, Bad Water Videos tells a more ambitious story. Yeah, the ragdolls are alive, we've heard that before, but now there is a white void that is used to travel between maps. That's kind of weird. The player is straight up evil, but they have some sort of motive for being evil. Okay. The TF2 characters were somehow grabbed from their game and brought into Garry's mod. It still isn't really explained how the player was able to travel to a different game, but cool nonetheless. The ragdolls are now more lifelike than ever, as they are often seen able to fully move around on their own. While I do prefer the more subtle motions seen in Gunslinger Pro, it's pretty cool seeing these models fully animated, and it just makes it all the more gripping once you see how the player treats them. Couple that with some iconic characters, Melon Man Stands Rise Up, and you get a series that I think is fantastic. Although, there is one very minor complaint I have, and honestly, this is me just nitpicking here, but I'll say it anyways. Some of the videos you'll find on this channel are machinimas made by Bad Water Videos themselves, and while I think they're well done, they feel kind of off. It's probably the lack of background music that's messing up the vibe for me. Every Gmod machinima back in 2009 had some sort of whimsical music playing in the background. So to just have map ambience playing instead just doesn't feel right. But again, that's a very minor complaint because Bad Water Videos is still a great series either way. Bad Water Videos is like the most popular ARG compared to the others in this list. I can definitely see why. In my opinion, I don't think it does the whole moving ragdolls thing as well as Gunslinger Pro, but I feel like I'll be ripped to shreds if I put this in A tier, so S tier.
Jesus, are you from here? Look at you. That is so depressing.
PlasticApple is a series that on a glance seems to be similar to Gunslinger Pro and Bad Water Videos. But besides the moving ragdolls, I think it offers something completely different. There's a legitimate mystery going on over what's happening between these silly Left 4 Dead 2 characters and the player. Like, at first, it seemed like the player was gonna be our antagonist again, and Nick is our protagonist. Then it shifts to Nick actually being the bad guy, and the player is more or less a victim in all of this, and now it seems like neither of them are evil. The series keeps you invested by bringing up many questions that won't be answered until much later on, which, again, I won't spoil, that's for you to figure out on your own. Although one problem I have with this story is that the videos make it clear that Nick is trying to kill the player. But can't the player just respawn? What's the point in killing them if they're just gonna respawn? Unless there's some piece of lore that we're missing, like killing the player in-game kills them in real life or something, I don't know. Just like Bad Water Videos, the characters here are fully animated, which is always nice to see, although we spend a lot more time with Nick than we do with any other character, including the player. This I don't mind at all. I mean, the story is mainly focused around Nick anyways, so it only makes sense. Although it's kind of surprising how few machinimas there are on this channel, only 3 to be exact, maybe 4 if we're counting the Q&A, which I think is kind of a shame cause these videos would fit in perfectly with those GMod machinimas from the 2010s. And as a bonus, these videos are like actually funny, although half of the time the humor feels unintentional. Brain bonking the player on the head will never not be hilarious to me. Oh, and why is Breen here? I don't know. That still isn't explained. Yeah, this series is definitely not perfect. Like, there's some stuff that are not explained clearly, or not explained at all. Rochelle only appears one time in this series, and then never again after that. There are some characters that come and go randomly, small stuff like that. Although, in my opinion, it doesn't affect the viewing experience too much, I still very much enjoy watching this series. It's definitely good to see a moving Ragdolls ARG that doesn't use the TF2 characters, but that being said, it's not S tier. There's some problems holding it back, so A tier.
Do you know who ate all the donuts?
Something's Wrong with My Gmod, that is a mouthful, is a series that is so bizarre that I thought it was a parody for a second. Like, it started off okay, it was just another living Ragdolls ARG, but instead of TF2 or Left 4 Dead characters, it's the Dr. Coomer model from Half-Life, which is somehow both hilarious but also terrifying. But then the third video reveals that there is a secret area in the dark room of Construct, and this is where it kind of lost me. The secret area subplot serves literally no purpose, it's only there to have spooky horror moments like jump scares. From this point forwards, the series goes from the Dr. Coomer ragdoll is alive to my game is haunted by Dr. Coomer, which I can't take seriously. Classic GM videos and Gmod 9 fan were scary because the models used were either unsettling or hard to make out. This is just Dr. Coomer from Half-Life.
Freeman?
There's also a bunch of details that never go explained. Dr. Coomer is sometimes normal, but then there are other times where he's a giant head. Why? I don't know. Dr. Kleiner is seen running into the dark room in the third video, the same video where the secret area is revealed. Why? I don't know. Early on in the series, it's shown that the Dr. Coomer ragdoll can consistently move around on its own, but later on in the series, it never does that again. Why? I don't know. It's inconsistent. To me, it feels like the creator just didn't fully think this ARG through before starting it. And if you think I'm being too harsh, the creator of this channel last year essentially broke character and said that this series was too bland, and honestly, I'll have to agree with them. I mean, you can definitely have some fun watching this series. I guess that's why it has a lot of views. And I do like the investigations that happen in this series, but like, it's just not good. Again, you can definitely have some fun watching this series, and Coomer is absolutely terrifying, but until the reboot comes out, I'm just gonna put this in C tier.
We're the Green Mafia. You Joe?
No, who's Joe?
TheSurvivorOfAll is unique, cause when you first start watching it, your first thought will probably be, what the hell am I even watching? There's no dark figure, no living ragdolls, we're just following this character as he films himself and his surroundings. It might not be immediately obvious on what this ARG is, but if you're a longtime consumer of Gmod machinimas, then you might know that this series takes place during the events of War of the Servers. War of the Servers, if you don't know, is an hour-long machinima parodying War of the Worlds. Duh. And despite it being one of the earliest examples of a GMod machinima, to this day it's still very impressive, and I highly recommend watching it if you haven't already. There are many hints of the TheSurvivorOfAll taking place during War of the Servers. The Grey Fog, the contraptions, the minge bags. The minge bags are honestly a dead giveaway. This channel is essentially just a survivor's perspective of the minge bag invasion seen in War of the Servers, and I love it. Couple that with some amazing camera work, and you got yourself a series that feels more like a short film than an ARG. It's definitely a slow burn since the first few videos have nothing going on, but man, once you get past those videos, it's so good. Although it is kind of funny seeing the series go from primitive Gmod 9 tech to tech that was obviously taken from the Gmod workshop. That does kind of hurt the world building it was going for, but I don't mind. I do love myself an ARG that tries something new, and the TheSurvivorOfAll went above and beyond. The amount of work that went into this series is just, wow, easy S tier.
Garry is dead. Not a big surprise.
FortressSoldier is the one ARG here on this list that probably has the shortest story compared to the others. Like, seriously, you can finish this series in 10 minutes if you watch every video back to back. This ARG is sort of a weird cross between the Dark Figures trope and the Living Ragdolls trope, trying to do both at the same time. Instead of a dark figure, now it's a red heavy stalking the player. But also, this red heavy is in constant pain and wishes to be deleted. Not only is this a short story, but it's also very easy to understand. Heck, we even get a origin story for the red heavy too. That doesn't make it bad per se, but if you're looking for a more complex story, then this channel isn't for you. I think FortressSoldier is fine. It doesn't do anything special, but that doesn't make it bad. So with it just being okay, I'm just gonna put it in B tier.
You want to peep the horror? Here.
GMod Cool Player 1 is an ARG that is very confusing. And not the good confusing like, oh, I need to solve the lore of this ARG. I mean like actually confusing. Usually whenever I watch an ARG channel, I would watch the entire series in one go, and if there's anything that I'm stumped on, then I would refer to an explanation video. Well, when I watched IC's video on this channel, shoutouts by the way, even he was confused by whatever the hell is going on. I understand you want to make your story cryptic, but don't make it unintelligible, especially since there are so many moments here that just straight up go unexplained. What are these rooms out of bounds? Is it hell? Why do we just cut to random characters that never get brought up again? Do they matter? Why does the player keep slipping into the flat grass pit? Is he stupid? What is this monstrosity? Is it Satan? This is what I mean. This story is incomprehensible. Spoiler alert, I guess, but what I'm at least able to gather is that GMod Cool Player 1 is a chronic gamer, and he hates his friends so much, for some reason, that he turned them into ragdolls. Somehow. I'm not kidding when I say that's the actual plot. It's only until the final episode where we actually get some names, but good luck trying to figure out who is who. I think there was some time travel involved as well. I don't know. The only thing I can give props to is the presentation shown in these videos. The deleted world and hell looking place are pretty well made, but other than that, yeah, this series is gonna be a nah from me. The creator definitely has some talent, and he's definitely committed judging by how long this series has gone on for, but like, everything else just kinda drags it down. I can definitely see this series being amazing with just a few tweaks, but the channel we got now is just... no. I'm sorry, but... D tier.
There was a misinput. Calm down! You calm the f-
GMod Weird Models is sort of like Interloper, mainly in presentation. However, instead of some shadowy figure with an umbrella, now it's just some weird broken model that's constantly breaking GMod. Comparisons aside, this is one of the more recent GMod ARGs, and I think it already has a lot of promise. The model that's destroying this player's game, Deep 002B, is actually really unsettling. This eldritch abomination of a model is so broken that it's hard to make out any distinguishing features. The random and broken way it behaves too, and how it changes and destroys maps is just so good. This entity essentially looks and acts like the physical version of Source Engine spaghetti code, and that spaghetti code may have gained sentience. All jokes aside, it's honestly hard to tell if this model is sentient or not. There are hints on it just being coded weirdly, but with how intelligent it can be, who knows? I also love how our protagonist is like trying to stay professional, but the confusing nature of this entity is making him drop the act. All in all, even though this series has only just begun, I can already tell that this is gonna be an amazing ARG. This ARG definitely has some heavy Interloper inspirations, but I think it works out. Plus, this is one of the few channels that has actually jump scared me, so thanks for that. S tier.
Someday, this will all be a bad memory.
Citizen 05 logs is sort of weird to me, cause on my first watch through, I didn't like it, but on my second watch through, I was like, oh my god, I get it. It's not amazing, there are some problems with it, but man, I really underestimated this channel. This is a series that is clearly inspired by TheSurvivorOfAll, but instead of following a player surviving the Minge Bag invasion, we're following Male 05 from City 17, who was somehow dragged into Garry's mod. Although, there's more to this story than just, oops, I'm in the wrong game. Past trauma, loneliness, the repeated assertion that our protagonist is not real, it's pretty eerie. This series also brings up a bunch of questions. What happened before Male 05 moved to City 17? Who is Mark? Why is G-Man following our protagonist? What is this creature? The story alone is keeping me invested in whatever the heck is going on here, and it's great. The presentation, though, is okay, but not the best. Some episodes have this corruption filter that gets really annoying really quickly. There is one episode where the protagonist finds himself on the TF2 Harvest map and all the mercs are in the civilian pose, and I just can't take it seriously. And in another episode, the creator likely used an AI voice module for one of the scenes. So that I don't approve of. It's for those reasons that I can't really give Citizen 05 logs an S tier, but I still think it's a good series. Honestly, it's so close to being S tier, but like, there's some problems just holding it back. I'm sure over time I'll bump this to S tier, but for now, A tier.
Cover yourself in oil.
GMod Russian Fan 1566. Well, let me start off by saying that this channel tried to be unique at first, and let me emphasize at first. Instead of a dark figure, our story follows the player being haunted by the trollage, and yes, I'm being serious. As ridiculous as that is, I don't really hate that concept. It's a dumb concept, but I can see it working. Kind of. The main problem I have with this series is that it defaults back to the usual GMod ARG tropes that we're all sick of. That also includes the dark figure and Cheeple. Why? You already have an antagonist, why throw in another one? I am serious when I say you can cut out the dark figures and cheaple from this story and literally nothing will change. It doesn't help that the story itself feels like a goddamn fever dream. The player is scared of the dark room, yet for some reason, he just can't stop going towards it. SCP-096 appears for a few frames in one episode for seemingly no reason, and there's a lot of focus on this Matt character, even though he's just an NPC. The one video that seriously broke me though is called Goodbye Matt. There is a scene where the trollage is chasing the player and Matt, and right when it reaches Matt, it hard cuts to him dead on the ground with "It's Just a Burning Memory" playing in the background. The scene we get after that is the player trying and failing to bury him. When I saw this, I literally couldn't stop laughing, like, what is this? Saying all that though, it does make me wonder if this series is supposed to be a parody. It would make sense considering how unhinged this series gets, but there's no obvious hints that this is a parody besides maybe the ending. If this is a parody, then I commend the creator for making me laugh, but if it isn't, then again, I don't hate the concept. It's stupid, but I can see it working. The problem with this ARG is everything else. It just doesn't work if you're gonna default back to the usual GMod ARG cliches. I don't have anything else to say, just cover me in oil, D tier.
Today, I am a god!
This might not count as a GMod ARG, but screw it, I'm putting it in the list anyways. Regular Citizen 007 is a series that has legitimately surprised me for how much I enjoyed it. When I first started watching it, I was like, oh great, is this another Living Ragdolls ARG? But no, instead, we follow the story of a couple of friends being transported in and out of the Source Engine world, as well as the backstory behind the murder of 4. Watching the members of the 00 friend group being killed one by one is actually pretty gripping. Oh, and speaking of the 00 friend group, the rest of them also have YouTube channels, not just Regular Citizen. And some of them do contain additional videos that help supplement the overall story. The story itself is admittedly a lot to wrap your head around, and it's also not being told in chronological order. But once you connect all the dots and piece together a timeline like I maybe have, oh, it's so satisfying. And the best part is it's still ongoing, although from the looks of it, we're getting close to what might be a finale for this series. The only minor complaints I have is it has some pacing issues. Like, some videos just go by way too fast, which might irritate some people, but it's not a deal breaker. Other than that though, this is an amazing series, and surprisingly, it's an underrated one. Not a lot of people know about this channel, which is surprising considering how deep this lore can get. If you haven't seen Regular Citizen 007 yet, do yourself a favor and give it a watch. I guarantee you, you will not be disappointed. I'm honestly upset that not many people know about this channel because it's so good. This is why I'll say don't count GMod ARGs out just yet, because you'll get channels like this. Or I guess this is a TF2 ARG, I don't know. Either way, this is a very easy S tier. Go check it out.
Have you ever had an original thought?
Garry's Mod 9 reuploads. Let's see here. Low quality recordings, check. Scared of the dark room, check. Appearances of a dark figure, check, check, check. All the cliches of a typical GMod ARG are here in full force. Hell, this channel even copied the descriptions from classic GM videos. People, I put this ARG in this list for a reason. We all have our inspirations, but there's no reason to flat out copy work from another creator. Instead, use that inspiration to create new, inventive channels that tell a cryptic yet compelling story. Make it interactive as well if you want to, like an actual ARG. Don't do this. This doesn't even tell a story. Oh, there's a dark figure in GMod 9? Who cares? I've heard that a million times before. Copycat ARGs like this are why people are bored of GMod ARGs. Hell, even the creator of this very channel got bored of this series. I don't know what to say. I mean, at least the creator is self-aware about this series. Please be original when creating your own GMod ARG. D tier. I'm going to throw a curveball for this last one because this isn't a YouTube channel. GM Construct 13 Beta is an entire map that you can download and play right now. Already, this ARG sets itself apart from the others because now you gotta set out and explore this weird beta version of Construct. Not only that, but some of the puzzles that you have to do in order to progress are actually pretty complex, but very rewarding once you figure it out. The story itself is nothing too deep, to be honest, but I can forgive that, as just exploring and solving this map for hours on end is more than worth it. Especially since this map is, surprisingly, extremely well made. I mean, duh, it was made by two veteran GMod mappers, so of course it's gonna be well made. But some of the tricks this map pulls off, it feels like black magic. An entire mirror world, spaces that make absolutely no sense, a portal that leads to a hidden room. Like, how is some of this stuff even possible? You might say years of coding on Lua, and you might be right, but I'm telling you right now, it's black magic, 100%. The main reason why I love this map though is it feels like a celebration for GMod as a whole. Everywhere around the map, you'll find references to GMod horror. Dark Figures, Semper, the Cough Virus, the Ratman from GMod 13 Hotels, and maybe more that I'm missing. It even has references to things that are not horror related, like the minge bags that randomly appear in this map. People still bully me for calling these guys mean bags, by the way. It even has direct references to other ARGs that I've already covered on this list. This is why I'm not saying this map is one big reference to GMod horror or whatever. It's celebrating years of GMod history in whatever way it can, all while delivering a fun mystery for those willing to explore. Please check out this map. Even if you hate puzzle solving, you gotta admit that this is very well done. This map belongs in S tier. Absolutely amazing. And that's pretty much it for the Garry's Mod ARG tier list. If you disagree on where a certain ARG is ranked, then let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll be sure to give it a read. Now, before you comment, hey, you forgot about this ARG. Oh, what about that ARG? Listen, I don't want to spend all day ranking ARGs with less than 100 views that are either just shadowy figures scare me or ragdolls move and I don't care. It's repetitive. Although, I won't deny that there are channels out there that many would consider hidden gems, just waiting to be discovered. Hell, I showed one of them off here in this video. So, tell you what, if this video reaches 15k likes, then I will be doing a second part to this video, continuing from where I left off and expanding the tier list even more. That is a promise. Before we close out this video, here's one last look at the tier list we have. If my opinions shift on these ARGs and there's a second part to this video, then I might swap them around. But for now, I'm satisfied with this list. I hope you all enjoyed the video, take care, and as always, I will see you guys next time.